You know, I was in addiction, man. I would rob you, I'd steal from you, I'd cut your throat in a heartbeat if it meant making $10 off of you, and I'd steal your pain medicine, steal your pills, man. If I seen them in the cabinet, like many people who's come through here, I've ate up a trash can once or twice myself, man. You feel very degraded when it comes to that point in your life, and like you're so hungry, you just don't care. People tried their hardest to love me, man, and to help lead me down the right path, but I just didn't want it. Like our family members can't understand, like why is so and so killing themselves, man? Like you see they've lost 20, 30 pounds. They're using drugs all the time. From the outside looking in, it's like madness, and they don't understand it. Split decisions, man, and addiction itself takes a toll on everybody around you. We think, who's it affecting but just us? And man, it affects so much more people than just you, man.
All right, guys, I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in to Redemption Road Podcast. And today we're here at the 30-day facility. This is our Phase 1 treatment facility of Redemption Road for our male clients. Today we're live here at the rehab, and we've got we'll have a bunch of guys in the background. You know, they're playing different games or watching TV or just kind of chilling. So we've done class and all that stuff today. So we're kind of just winding down as the day goes without or through. So today I've got a little treat for y'all. I've got one of my co-workers here with me. It's Mr. John Foltz, and today we're going to go through a little bit of John's history and talk to him a little bit about his life and where he came from and how he's gotten to where he's at today. So, John, if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, well, I was in addiction for about 15, going on 16 years at the time. Started off at a real young age, man. I grew up in a home that was full of, my mother, she was addicted to pain pills and nerve medicine, and she had a real bad gambling problem.
Yeah, so now you're from...
I was originally from Millsboro, moved to Boone County, Kentucky, up around the Florence, Hebron area, stayed up there for majority of my life, and then came back after my mother passed away.
Okay, so you're from kind of from southeastern Kentucky, but you've lived in other... Okay.
Yeah, I've lived a little bit all over. So my mom, she ended up taking her life in 2008, and that was pretty much what fueled my addiction early on.
And she was addicted to...
Yeah, so she took her life back in 2008. She struggled with a lot of depression herself, and she had a lot of gambling addiction. Like I said, man, she was spending a lot of money in there, and then the more she would spend, more she would lose, the deeper into depression she would go.
So it's a vicious cycle, man. Once you start that gambling, everybody thinks, oh, if I could just get a little bit more, I'm going to hit that big jackpot.
Yeah.
But you always end up spending more than you'll ever get.
So what I feel like is she's won probably one or two, and then that right there had her hooked from then on. She always chasing, hoping for the opportunity to get.
And a lot of people don't realize, man, so that's just as strong as addiction as the actual drugs itself, man. So they're like hand in hand, man. You can't have one without the other.
I know. But yeah, man, like as soon as she passed away, I went on like a downward spiral, started messing around with some heroin up around the Cincinnati area.
How old was you when you started?
Man, I was about 16, going on 17. I lost her when I turned 17.
Okay.
So like I had dabbled with it, and then after she passed, I went full blown in addiction. Yeah. And my stepfather Brian, he done the best he could with me, man. I was wild, man. And I had a brother who was 8 years younger than me that I was influenced in a negative way. And, it was a hard decision for my stepdad, Brian, to take, but he had to ship me back down here to live with my papa.
Yeah, just trying to look out for your younger brother. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, he was working all the time, man. He didn't have time really to, like, focus on me. Yeah. And, like, I was being a burden at the time. So, like, we had a lot of stuff going on, and I was crippling a lot of things, man, in the household. So when I came down here, I lived with my papaw for maybe a year or two. I got my GED while I was down here, man. Was doing good for a little bit. Started working for Smithfield Packing Company in Millsboro, man, and it went downhill from there.
Yeah.
Started getting addicted to pain pills and messing around with women, man. And they would never last. Relationships and addiction, I just don't ever feel like really last, man.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
just
toxic.
it's a hostile environment.
It's a very
it's just it's more chaos than anything. Anytime
sure.
you got two people trying to be together, that is that's getting high, man. It's
bad.
It's never good. Yeah.
So after you get your heart broken enough times, man, I figured I'm gonna try to look up my biological father and see if I can go stay with him, get away from everybody.
So now your grandpa, he was a pretty decent guy, right?
Yeah, he was super. He was a super good person, man. Like he didn't cuss, man. He didn't smoke cigarettes, didn't drink alcohol, didn't do no drugs. He was totally against it. And then after my mom passed away, he was dead set against it for sure.
Yeah.
So he done his best, and still today does his best to help me and to help take care of me, man, any way he can, show that he loves me and stuff. And I don't fault him for anything that's happened in the years. He's had to show me a lot of tough love, man, over the last 10 years, man, which I deserved.
Sometimes we need that.
Yeah, we absolutely do. So, like, I had ended up packing up. They went on a trip one weekend, and I didn't even tell nobody I was leaving. I just packed all my stuff up. Had lost my job at Smithfield, and just left. And it kind of broke his heart. I know it did. Me not telling him where I was going or who I was going with, and just up and leave. But I went and stayed with my dad, my biological father, in Morristown, Tennessee, which was probably one of the biggest mistakes in my life, man. To me, he'd always been a real abusive man growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I'd go visit him on the weekends, man. Him and my mom had joint custody of one another with me. So when I would be around him, man, I was terrified of him my whole life.
Yeah.
Me, I'm just 5'6", but he was a giant to me, man. He was 6'5", 300+ pounds.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like the only time that he ever smiled, man, was when he was disciplining us or, being forceful with us, man. And like, it always messed with me.
Yeah.
So
did he do any kind of like drugs or alcohol or anything?
So, man,
John?
I tell you, like, he would drink a little bit, but he had messed around with he messed around with steroids and testosterone at a young age, and it messed him up. So he had already had like a short fuse.
Yeah.
As far as like smoking pot or anything, no, he wouldn't do none of that. Now, he was addicted to pain pills. He ended up getting hurt and got a script of pain pills.
Yeah.
And then, like, over the course of years, he would get like little pain pills up to like bigger pain pills, all the way up to the time he was getting Opanas. He had somehow got it worked out with the doctors where he was getting Opanas. So, like, there for the longest time, I was dealing with that growing up.
Yeah, so man, they make you super aggravated and ill and mean. Like, I can remember when I first started doing pain pills, and if I couldn't get that, that pill or what that I needed, man, I was just hateful to everybody and just mean person, and that's kind of a little bit of the control that they have over us without us even realizing, completely alter our moods,
Yeah. So when I was living with him, man, like, I would use him for a place to stay, and he would use me for anything that he needed me to do, whether it was work a job and give him all my money or me to do any type of running for him, man. Like, I was doing that.
Yeah.
So we kind of balanced each other out. He was using me for a cause, I was using him for a cause. So he would give them to me, get me hooked on them, man. And then if I didn't do something the way he wanted it done, he would take things away from me. Like, he would supply me with a vehicle, supply me with a phone or something or a place to live. But as soon as I went against the grain, even a little bit, he would just jerk all of it away from me.
Yeah, so sort of like he was only helping you to get something out
of it.
Yeah,
for sure. And, growing up, man, like, my early 20s, like, we could never live together very long. So, like, there for a while, like, early 20s, man, into, like, my mid-20s, man, I would live from family member to family member to family member. I remember traveling to all these different places, man, and I could just tell that for the most part, like, I was just a burden, man. And, like, I know that they loved me as much as they could, man, and they tried to do for me as much as they could. But, like, I was in addiction, man. And I would rob you, I'd steal from you, I'd cut your throat in a heartbeat if it meant making $10 off of you. And I'd steal your pain medicine, steal your pills, man, if I seen them in the cabinet.
Yeah, and it really is a sickness, man. A lot of people don't understand that. They think that you're just robbing them, just because that's what you do. But, man, we're only robbing people and taking from people to try to supply our own habit, man, because we think that we need this thing to help us get through the day, to make us feel better, and it's a vicious cycle, man. It is.
So what I've learned, man, over the last year or two is, and I feel like it's so true, man. So like by nature, we want to be comfortable.
Yes.
And like our family members can't understand, like, why is so-and-so killing themselves, man? Like you see they've lost 20, 30 pounds. They're using drugs all the time. They're whittling away to nothing. And like from the outside looking in, it's like madness, and they don't understand it. Well, by nature, we want to be comfortable. So we become comfortable in killing ourselves, man. And it's uncomfortable having to stop. And like it was very uncomfortable for me to like know that I wasn't going anywhere in life, knowing that I was strung out on a needle, man, knowing I was having to bum everything I've ever had to like beg for, man. And I remember like them guys that hold up signs asking for help and for money. Like that was me at a young age, man. Like I wasn't very proud of it, man, for sure. But like, eventually your pride has to stop. And like I would go out there and ask for money, man. Like many people who's come through here, I've ate out of a trash can once or twice myself, man. And you feel very degraded when it comes to that point in your life. And like you're so hungry, you just don't care.
Yeah.
And you even know that it's been baking in the hot sun all day, and you just don't care, man. So you'll eat it knowing it's going to make you sick, but you're so hungry you have to, man.
It's survival of the fittest,
And, I remember people, I'd hold up a sign asking for help and stuff, and they'd come out, they'd drive up to me, and they'd hold their hand out with a wallet full of money. And as I walk up to the car, they'd jerk it back in real quick and then speed off, and you can see them laughing and stuff, women wanting to know what that smell is when they walk by me, knowing it's me, know. And I just remember being so miserable, man. Like I hated everybody who was happy because I was just so miserable. I wanted to be happy and I couldn't be.
Yeah.
And like I felt, even from a young age, man, I had a lot of insecurities, man. I had a lot of insecurities as a young boy, as a young man, as a older man, man. Like I had a lot of abandonment issues.
Yeah.
And which I know it was all my fault for the reason why, people tried their hardest to love me, man, and to help lead me down the right path, but I just didn't want it. Yeah. I didn't want help. I didn't want anybody to really care about me. I hate to use mom as that reason, but it goes to show, man, like split decisions, man, and addiction itself takes a toll on everybody around you. We think for a long time, man, who's it affecting but just us?
Yeah.
And it affects so much more people than just you.
Yeah,
man.
It affects absolutely. I mean, if you've got an addict, it's for sure affecting the whole household, for sure. And not to mention the family, the close family members and stuff. I can remember, how just, I had a good woman and stuff, that didn't do drugs, but I can just remember the person that she was because I had affected her in such a way, that like I couldn't even talk to her or nothing, but without her, completely shutting down and pushing me away because of the things that I had done from her. I couldn't ask her for something because she automatically assumed, hey, it's for drugs, and it was. Most of the times it was, So, we don't realize that we just don't affect. We're not just affecting ourselves; we're affecting so many more people, man, and it's affecting their people too.
Yeah. So I got a 9-year-old daughter, and
how old was you when you had your daughter, John?
See, man, so I'm 32 now. It's embarrassing how I can't do math right.
32.
So yeah. So
you was about what, 30 or 23?
Yeah, I was 23.
24.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So when
Kentucky math.
Yeah, Kentucky math, Bell County math. So how this whole situation got into play, man. I had went to live with my dad again for a little bit of time. He would keep me up again after me begging, for him to take me in. So I go live with him, and we go travel to Murphy, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Now he was doing some stuff, man, that he thought was biblical, but it wasn't. He was associated with the Klan about the majority of his life.
Yeah.
Him and my uncles, and they would travel to go do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they'd bring me along and make me be a part of it. So like we would travel to North Carolina, and we was hanging out at friends of theirs' house, and there was a girl there, you know. And long story short, man, 9 months later, here's a baby.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting married 14 days before my daughter Layla was born.
Yeah.
And you know, I was a scumbag, man. I wasn't ready to be a dad. I wasn't ready to be a husband. I wasn't ready to be really anything.
Yeah.
And so like any chance, like as the baby was born, man, I was working a job. I actually go up there and live with them in Murphy, North Carolina. Try to do what was right for a little while, man. Went to college there for a semester. Went and got me a full-time job, man. I was working. Ended up having a bunch of affairs on her.
Yeah.
I started drinking a lot. I never really had a taste for liquor at all until I couldn't find no more dope, and I started drinking a lot.
So that's the thing. That's how a lot of people get into drinking. So we start out with other substance issues, and then we move to a new spot to where we don't got all them connections and stuff. So, I mean, anywhere you go, alcohol is available. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you go. You can get it. You don't have to know anybody. You don't have to have some connection or nothing. It's just right there.
It's right
at your
there
local
anytime you want it.
7-Eleven,
Yeah.
you know, anytime.
Yeah, anytime, man. And you know, I want to say I could blame it all on that, man, but I had a lot of stuff just going on with me. Like I said, like as a man, I wasn't ready to settle down. I wasn't ready for what the real life had to offer me, man. So, of course, like I said, like I treated them every chance I got with whoever I could.
Yeah.
I was never home. She would try time after time to like save our marriage, and I just wasn't about it. So eventually, man, she would try to do Sherlock Holmes on me, I guess you'd say, man. She was kind of trying to be a PI and find out what I was doing.
Yeah.
And, man, I tell you, the more I would drink, the meaner I would get. And I never thought I would stoop down to that type of level, but, you know, I was a very abusive husband. I was a very abusive mentally, physically, psychologically, man. I'd pick her apart and break her down, and I was cruel to her, man. And, you know, the smartest thing that she could have done at that time was what she did. She packed up and left. And, you know, we was married for 8 years, but only together for 2 of them 8 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, now today's time, man, me and her's the best of friends, man. I mean, as good as we can be, I guess. We can co-parent together real good with my daughter, Layla.
Yeah.
But the effect that it's had, man, is while I lived in Kentucky and she lived in Murphy, North Carolina, like the distance between 2 states is hard for me to make every other weekend or even every 2 or 3 months. You know, I don't have my license are suspended right now at the moment. So, like, it's always been a struggle for me to have transportation.
Yeah.
But, you know, like my daughter, I can remember this time in particular, man. So, like, I've been to Millsboro, running the roads, man, trying to lay with some girl, man, and use meth, man. And anyway, my phone had rang all day long, and I knew it wasn't Ashley because she wouldn't have cared enough to call me that many times. So I knew it was my daughter. And man, I'm hitting the ignore button, hitting the ignore button, and finally, man, at about 10 o'clock that night, after everything was said and done, man, and I was aggravated and mad at how the day went. I finally answered the phone, and I'm cussing. I'm asking her what she's wanting, why she keeps blowing up the phone. And she just tells me, she says, well, Dad, I just wanted to call and tell you I love you, that today was my birthday, and you hadn't called me. Yeah. So, like, I knew, man, which even way before then, that, you know, I was a bad dad, man. I was a bad person, man. And I was totally self-centered, and I didn't have any love for anybody or anything, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got mixed up in the wrong crowd of people in Millsboro. It got to selling fake dope and ended up getting busted for doing so.
Yeah. So now, all this time throughout your whole life, you've really never had anything religious or church or anything like that as far as the Lord?
No. So we had went to church when I was younger. And, you know, my dad would preach out of a Bible, but there was nothing biblical about this man whatsoever.
Yeah.
He was always preaching about hate, how we're supposed to hate this person for the color of their skin, or we're supposed to hate this person for what religion he is. So there was no love or compassion in this man at all.
Yeah.
And it was just like pure evil, man.
Yeah.
So like my views of Christianity was perverted, man.
Yeah.
Like you know, here they are holding up a cross and lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
And, you know, dancing around in robes and stuff, man.
Yeah, that's...
And then preaching out of Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, man, and like talking about, you know, what a Christian's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, well, man, I don't want none of that if that's what
Absolutely.
Christ is, man. And I was just very perverted about it. So when I had got arrested, I had gotten picked up, man, with a bunch of fake meth, man. It was MSN.
Now when was this?
So it was, I'm gonna say about 2020, maybe. So I've been here for almost two and a half years. So it's been about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
No, well, I did over a calendar there. So I did about 13, 14 months with them in county jail. So it's roughly about 4 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Man, I get picked up on all this, and I'm thinking it's the lowest point of my life, man.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know, my life sucks, man. It can't get no worse. And, you know, I end up getting shipped from Bell County to Knox County. And you know what, man? Like, they said something about a church service.
Yeah.
And I didn't even care anything about the Lord at the time. But, but I just wanted to get out of my jail cell, man. So like I go into the church service, man, and I end up falling in love with what everybody was talking about, man.
Yeah. So that was like when you came into the church. Was it the Redemption Road?
Yeah, it was you guys.
Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a Redemption Road, and then like you said, you ended up doing like a calendar. So what?
So altogether, I've done 6 months at Bell County. I've done 2.5 months at Knox County, and I've done 7 months. Then 7 months at Clay County before I made parole. So it was around 12, 13 months, something like that.
So 12, 13 months.
Yeah,
so then, so how did you get to us? So what happened to lead you to Redemption Road?
So I tell you, man, like I made parole, and I was supposed to go to a halfway house.
Yeah.
And I did not want to go to a halfway house. I didn't have no home placement. So really, I was going to run. I was just going to run and say, you know what, forget it. Catch me when you can. And I go home, and my papaw ends up getting a hold of me. He was going to put me up in an apartment that he owned on 19th Street. And he said, hey, they've left a door tag. The probation and parole officer has left a door tag on your door saying you're supposed to check in Richmond on Monday and to call this number back. So, like, I had already went and got high, man. Like, I knew I was going to pop dirty for when they tested me.
Yeah.
And anyway, man, like, I just knew now my papaw's involved in it.
Yeah.
So now I have to go up here to this Richmond place. And as soon as I get up there, I know I'm going to pop dirty.
Yeah.
So, man, I go, and I just knew. I said, here again, I'm going to let this man down, the only person who ever really took care of me while I was locked up, man, the person who's been taking care of me my whole life, really helping me as much as anybody else has. I'm going to have to let this guy down one more time and go back to jail for popping a negative or a positive drug test. Yeah. But, man, I'll tell you, the whole time I was just sitting there saying, Lord, like I didn't really even know who I was praying to, but I was just saying, man, Lord, if this is real, I was like, I promise this will be the last time. And I've probably made that promise a million times, but I meant it when I said it this time. I said, Lord, this is going to be the last time. I said, if you allow me to walk in there and walk back out today, I said, I'll do something different. And sure enough, man, I go in there, and I was completely honest with the PO, man. I told him, I said, yeah. I said, I'm going to fail. Yeah. Which I had done some, too, while I was locked up. I didn't know I was making parole. I had done some inside, but I had done some on the outside, too. Yeah. And regardless, I would have failed either way. But just for being honest with him, man, he said, well, okay. And he let me have a pass on it. And I got to leave, man, and didn't have to get arrested, man. Didn't have to go back. And that right there done something for me. And when I got back,
a little bit of mercy, to you.
A lot of mercy, man. Yeah. So like, I go back home, and I'm sitting there laying in bed, man, and I'm scared to death to really be outside because like once you've been up once you've been locked up for even just a little bit, man, like it's, it takes a long time to really decompress back to, like normal society. So, man, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I just do not want to keep living this life the way I've been living it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to go back. I didn't want to break my parole, man, and have to go back. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try Redemption Road out. And, like, I knew, even when I had put my name down on the list while I was incarcerated, I knew I was doing state time. I knew I wasn't going to get out. But, I mean, just going and listening to you guys talk and hearing.
You seen something.
A seed got planted, man. And, like, I remember looking you guys up on Facebook or on Google and got a number and called and talked to Josh. And Josh said, sure, man, if you want to parole out there to us, you're more than welcome to. So, man, I did. Yeah. And
that's what brought you to the program. And I'd like to welcome one of our other employees, Mr. Connor Bruce, to our program. And that's when you got to actually meet me and Mr. Connor.
Yeah.
So Connor's another guy that works here at the 30 Day. He actually does our drug test. Yeah. He's the greatest drug tester in southeastern Kentucky, some may say.
I'm the best drug testing guy there ever was.
For sure.
Ever will be.
So, Connor, do you remember John when he first came to the rehab?
I tell you, well, I remember John when I used to work at the long-term facility down there at the farm.
Yeah.
And one of the very first times I talked to John and met John, he talked about how nice and how much of a love he felt down here at Redemption Road. It was one of the first time I heard you speak.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been. We might have been going around the room or something like that. Jeff Reinhardt was still in the program.
Yeah.
And you said, man, like how much you loved that you felt like, I guess that you like had a place here and had a family here and how everybody was so nice and sweet to you. And I think I said something, like that, man, that right there is why we do it, right, Mookie? I mean,
that's it.
That's it, man. To have that feeling, to know that you've made a change, or at least was there to help somebody make a change, a difference in somebody's life. That's worth it all.
And it's such a common thing around here. So, man, we preach Jesus, man, and the only bit of religion that John had knew was hate. So, man, God's completely opposite of that, man. It's about love. So that's when you really come in here, man. You get to see these guys, man, and we're happy, and we're interacting with these clients, and we're just, you're looking at us, and man, we're just trying to be a good example, and just trying to tell you, that hey, no matter what kind of hand that you've been dealt, no matter what you've done, all that stuff doesn't matter, man. It's just from this day on, if you will repent of your sins and you will accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and that you'll invite Him into your heart, man, you can have these same things, man, and it's amazing. It really is.
I tell you, man, like I'd been to rehabs in the past when I was younger, and like I was kind of nervous about coming to this place, man. Especially when I knew it was faith-based, but I didn't know exactly what that meant.
So I mean, we're the title. Our title is rehab, but I mean, I know that you guys, know that it's more than that. So if y'all come here, man, and you get off drugs, man, that's a good thing, man. But if you come here 6 months and you leave and you don't know Jesus, man, we've not done our job, man. So we're a discipleship around here, man, and that's our main thing, man, first and foremost.
I hate to really like knock other rehabs, man, and I'm really not trying to, but my biggest thing, man, that really sold me with this place is like I never liked reminding myself that I was a drug addict. I never liked reminding myself that I was an alcoholic, man. I never liked that, and I felt like, man, how can you break that chain if you constantly have to remind yourself that that's who you are? Yeah. So, like, I knew, like, what I fell in love with the most here is I didn't get up and address myself as John. I'm an alcoholic, John. I'm a drug addict, because now, man, like, and it says in 2 Corinthians, it says that once you start serving Him, man, in 5:17 it says once you start serving Him, like all things, all things become new.
You are a new creature.
And that's real, man. I don't sit and think about wanting to get high anymore. I don't think about. I'm married now to my beautiful wife Jessica.
You better make sure you say something about Jessica. You won't be able to go home tonight.
My beautiful wife Jessica and our boys, man, and like I don't think about being mean to my wife. I don't I don't think about being mean to my kids, man, or running around on her. Like those thoughts of me do not exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's been a process, man. It's not, it's nothing that was super quick, super early into this. I knew before me and her even got together, man, I knew that I wasn't no good for nobody. And, I knew the Lord had a lot to deal with me on.
Yeah.
And I had to get my jealousy under control, man. I had to get my temper under control. And I knew the only one who could get it under control was him.
Yeah.
And, I give all the glory to God, man. It was nothing that I could have ever done. If I could have done it, I would have done it years ago, but I just couldn't. And
so just like you just said right there, none of us are good enough, man. None of us are good enough to ever deserve what Christ did for us, I mean, but he done it for us, man, so that we could invite him in. So we're just vessels anyways, man. I'm a vessel, you're a vessel, man. That's all we're to do, man. We still got, bad stuff in us, man.
Yeah.
But it's that daily decision, once you wake up in the morning, you have to choose every day of whom you're going to serve,
Yeah.
And, man, so if you choose Christ, man, and you keep him inside of you, man, it's so hard to be hateful. It's so hard to do bad stuff. You can't, it's almost impossible to live, a terrible life and to serve a God that is so righteous and so great,
I'll tell you just how good he's been to me, man. So when I come into the program, I had a lot of stuff going on with me health-wise.
Yeah.
Hepatitis C being one of the major things. And, once you start getting clean and your mind starts getting right again, like the first things that really start clicking is you want your teeth fixed, man, or you want your health fixed. You want to start taking care of yourself. So, like I prayed, man. I knew I had Hep C. I was done told while I was incarcerated, man. I took a COVID test. And the woman who was giving me the shot had dropped the shot on the ground, picked it up, scratched her hand with it. And they had to draw blood and test me to make sure I didn't pass nothing on to her. Well, come to find out, I definitely had some stuff that got probably passed on to her. And so, like, I knew once I got out, I needed that took care of. So, when I come here, man, like I started praying about it. And, and it wasn't like a God, if you're real, show me this type of thing. But I just prayed about it. And I said, Lord, I was like, I need you to show me you, man. Like, I want to see you. And I said, Lord, like, I want to be healthy. I don't want to have this Hep C anymore, man. I don't want to have the other stuff that's going on with me. I was like, I just want you to take it away. And sure enough, man, I go to see Sarah, get blood work done, and I don't have it no more, man. I didn't have to take no Maverick, didn't have to take no medicine. It's gone. My body had cured itself.
Yeah.
And kind of find out I was immune to Hep B. Like, it was, it was the Lord, man. And, I had another situation, man. I had some stuff going on with the courts. I hadn't paid no fines, man. And silly me, I didn't really think about it, but I just blew them off. And the state of Kentucky does not allow you to blow them off. You're either going to pay them or you're going to go back to jail.
Yeah, they're a little bit more hard-nosed.
Yeah, so I ended up praying about it, man. My pro officer, Sarah, was super sweet to me, man. Probably one of the best pro officers I've ever had. She told me, she gave me every opportunity to get them fixed. But she said it's got to the point now that it has to be fixed or I have to lock you up. Yeah. You're going to have to get a hold of Bell County Courts, get your warrants lifted or fixed somehow, postponed or whatever, or the next time you check in, you're going to jail. So, man, like, we put in a motion, man, and got denied. And then finally, I said, let's just do the one thing I'm not doing, and let's just pray to the Lord about it, man. So, like, I prayed, man, probably the hardest I've ever prayed for about a week straight. Yeah. And, he moved on it, man. He really did. And I know the letter was coming on its way to me, but, like some people wonder, why doesn't the Lord just answer prayers right away? Yeah. So, like, for me, and this is what really grew my faith. If he would have gave me my answer right then and there, then I wouldn't have spent the rest of that week praying and getting to know him better, man.
Absolutely.
So that letter was already on its way to me. He had already moved on the judge's heart to sign it to allow me to start making monthly payments again after I graduated the program. But, man, like, I didn't know that. So, like, how beautiful it is, man, is I spent all them days, man, praying and getting to know him and talking to him more than I ever had. And 3 days before I was supposed to go to my parole officer, I ended up getting a letter from Bell County Court saying, with good cause shown, we've listed all your warrants. You can start making monthly payments again after you graduated. And, man, it's just beautiful. And it's little stuff like that that I can hold on to and nobody can ever take away from me.
That's right.
And when my faith, if I feel like my faith starts to whittle away, man, it's stuff like that reminds me and tells me, you know what, you're going to make it through it, man. The Lord's going to be there.
So that's the way that the Lord does things, man. And, I mean, it's what you just hit on right there. It's having that faith to trust Him. You know, it's so like our pastor Scott says, we're a microwave generation. You know, when we do something, we want instant results.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all like that. You know, and that's just the way that the world is today, man. But sometimes, you know, it's always if we get it when right then, like you said, man, it'll never work out, man, in our timing, man. So it's always, you know, to wait and to trust and to have faith in the Lord, and man, He'll work it out better than what we could ever do. You know, His plans and His ways are way higher than ours, and He has an understanding. So like He knows what's going to happen tomorrow. He knows what's going to happen in 2 weeks. You know, He already knows all that. God does. So I mean, when we try to hurry things up or try to get our way or speed things up, you know, we end up messing stuff up
every time.
You know?
Every time. So like another situation, man, that he came and he spoke to me in is like for the longest time, like I was upset and mad that I couldn't have my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, we had never been to court. We had never been through anything at the time, but she was with her mom and I wanted her. And, you know, I'd be mad and upset why I couldn't have her. So, like, I was in the middle of prayer one time, man, and, like, it was like a Mack truck hit me, like the Lord spoke to me. And He said, man, if I would have allowed you to have her, she would have grew up knowing it was okay for a man to beat on a woman. She would have grew up knowing that it was okay to sell everything you've ever had for a shot of dope.
Yeah.
And not ever have any responsibility for anything. And it came to me, man, it's like He loved me enough to keep her from me until I got my life together, man.
Amen.
So, like, when it comes to the bigger picture of things, like like it's really, man, it's above our understanding about things.
Yeah, it is. It says in Isaiah, you know, it says His ways are higher than our ways. From the earth is from the heaven, or from the heaven is from the earth. And you know, it's interesting to think about that. It's like this times a billion, but it would be like me. I have a 3-year-old little daughter. It'd be like me trying to explain to my 3-year-old little daughter about rent, car payments, and car insurance. It's going to go way over her head if I try to talk to her about it. It's the same thing with us and God, except times like probably a billion, or even more than that. And you think about too, Mookie. You talked about Him answering prayers. You could imagine, man, how spoiled we would be if He answered every single prayer. Hey,
sure.
I need this. I need this. I need this. I need this. He's becoming more of a vending machine to us.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and for the most part, He does answer all of our prayers. Just some of them times it's not the answer that we want to hear. You know?
And like I was saying, man, a really good quote. We start to seek Him out for His presence, as in like Christmas tree presence, instead of His presence as like His presence in here with us. Yeah. We don't want to be at that point. No. And like you could imagine, say He answers like 10 things in a row for us, which sometimes it really does feel like it happens. And then the 11th He don't do it. We're in our feelings then. We're upset now. We're like, hey, why didn't God do that for me? Like, man, I deserve this. I deserve that. I'm like, whoa. Like, you've already lost sight of it, man. Like, God's give this to you. He's give that to you. He's give everything to you, man. And now you've turned into like spoiled.
Yeah, we have to be grateful.
Yeah, and even in my own life, I've been like, man, I'm like literally sometimes it's like, why hasn't something new happened yet? That's how spoiled. That's how spoiled I get sometimes. I'm like, why ain't this happening yet? I'm like, you have 2 healthy daughters, a healthy wife. You have literally everything you need, including your health. You've got a terrific church family. It's like, it's silly, especially you start to think about other people and other people's circumstances.
Yeah.
And then I hear so many people talk about, a little off topic, but when I was over there, I heard John talking about, man, how he just didn't really care for anything. And I've heard you say the same thing. Mookies
Yeah.
don't really care for
Yeah.
anything, don't really care for anybody. And so that's inspiring to see, too, working here, is how God will start to change hearts. And the Bible talks about that in the Old Testament, man. It talks about how you'll go from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is, man.
Yeah.
He'll make you start to care. You'll care for the lost.
That's
You'll
one
care-
of the first
yeah.
things that you get back. Man.
Yeah.
You start
Yeah.
that concern for the people around you, man. As
Yeah.
soon I know, like as soon as I started to really get it, that was my first. Like I was worried about my son,
Yeah.
because I knew that. Hey, listen, I've been a piece of crap my whole life. I've not taken. That's
Right.
that's our job as fathers. We're all three fathers. Our job is to let our kids know that, hey, there's this man named Jesus that came and he gave his life for us so that we could have life eternal,
Yeah.
and that we have to go out and we have to make sure that we're showing the rest of the world his likenesses and his presence,
Yeah.
to where they can either choose him or they don't, So that's the very first thing that you realize, is, hey, I need to tell my kids, I need to tell my wife, this thing is important, and he has to be number one in your life, of course, so if you put him number one in your life, above your kids, above your wife, above everything, man, those things flourish.
Yeah.
You put God first, you'll be a good husband.
Yeah.
If you put God first, you'll be a good father. You'll be a good employee. You'll be a good steward to your friends.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful life.
It really is, man. And that's like my wife Jessica. Like I knew she was the one when she told me that that she loved the Lord more than she would me.
Yeah.
Loved the Lord more than her kids.
Yeah.
And
now,
that goes
now
a long way.
Jessica, before you get too far into it, now Jessica was a little graduate from our Hope City program. So
Yeah.
So John was a graduate from Redemption Road. Jessica was a graduate for Hope City. Not saying if you come here, you'll
Yeah.
have to be guaranteed a woman. That's where all these guys are like, oh, we're going
Yeah.
to graduate and we're going to get a Hope City woman. That's
Yeah.
not true, but it definitely can happen. It's a
So-
possibility.
So I tell you, we did do it the right way, man. So
Absolutely.
So the time I was in the program, I was married to my ex-wife. So we come to a realization that was never going to be a thing between me and her again. So
Yeah.
we got divorced. So the whole time that the divorce process was going through, me and Jessica didn't talk to one another. So we waited until it was 100% completely over with. Once I was divorced, then like it was a process, man. Like it's smart to go the way that it did, man. Like it was a very slow process. It wasn't
Yeah.
nothing rushed, wasn't nothing forced into,
Yeah.
and like it was monitored, man. And that's what we really needed.
Yeah.
I definitely needed to be monitored, for sure, man. I had been locked up for a long time, hadn't been with a woman in a long time, so like I knew that
Yeah.
like I didn't trust myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thank Tammy Phipps, man, all the time, man, for how she's got stuff set up, man. It's the Lord that's doing it, of course. But like I needed that, man. I needed that structure, man. I needed somebody holding me accountable for things that was going on, man.
Yes,
if I
sir.
was going too far and left, I needed to come back right,
Yeah. Yeah, so we have all these leaders of these churches, like Scott, Tammy, Derek, Dan, Josh Hatton, Brandon. These guys are seeking God, man. They're actually seeking His face, for this thing to run. This is not ran by people that are and their own ideas, man. So like there's been so many times, that it's been a big decision, a business decision. Like, are we going to buy this or are we going to do that, man? And the very first thing, man, is prayer.
Yeah.
That's the actual. We don't seek a real estate agent or a consultant. It's Jesus, man, that we seek and look for these answers for, man. And that's why this place, I believe, flourishes, man. That's why it's such a great atmosphere, and that's why that there are real people here that are, for real, serving Jesus.
And I'm so drawn to this place, man. Like my whole life I've worked jobs off and on, man, that I would just dread going into, would hate, would try to lay out and skip out. Man, I look forward every day coming to work, man.
So tell us a little bit about what you do here at Redemption Road.
So,
John.
man,
I know
like-
you work. I mean, of course, I know what you do because I
Yeah.
work with you all the time. But tell the guys out there what.
So the Lord has definitely blessed me, man. He's opened a lot of doors, given me a lot of opportunities, man, to advance a little bit and
Yeah.
to work with these guys. So once I became an intern, I got to kind of get used to working with the guys a little bit, and sitting in classes and maybe even doing a couple classes myself,
Yeah.
and really getting to know the guys on like a one-on-one level and spending time with them and bonding with them. So, like, as time progressed, man, just pressing into the Lord and allowing Him to be the one that orchestrates everything. Like, a position opened up to be an intake coordinator for Redemption Road,
Yeah.
and they asked me if I wanted to fill that spot. And I love it, man. I love trying to contribute any way I can to the
Yeah.
rehab and to the Lord, man.
Yeah. So when the guys come in, you're one of the first guys
Yeah,
that they get to talk to.
They
It's
stop
John
at,
Fultz.
They stop at me first, and
He's your first stop as soon as you enter into the program, Mr. John Fultz.
Yeah. And I get to meet them first, man, and I get to talk to them, kind of get the little bit of background story from them, man, and I get to show them what the Lord's done in my life, man, and explains to them that just 2 years ago I was sitting in those same couches you guys were sitting in.
Yeah.
And
So man, that's it. It's very important, man, because I remember the very first people that I came into contact with when I walked through the doors when I was in the rehab, man, and it was like monumental to what they,
Yeah.
to me like figuring the place out, because I was like, hey, here's these guys, and the very first words out of their mouth to me was, "I love you," and I'm like, whoa,
It
that's
takes a
weird.
minute. It takes a
That's
minute to
weird,
get used to-
you
yeah.
know. Nobody loves me. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Not even my own kids, But man, it's God's love,
Yeah.
It's not and when I say God's love, what I mean is it's not a love that we're expecting something from you. I'm going to give you this, you give me that. It's not that kind of love. It's, I serve a God that has made a way for me, the Lord of all lords, the King of all kings, and I serve Him, so He calls me to love you. So that's what I do, and that's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Sometimes it takes a minute to like really let it sink in. Like I tell, and it's in a joking way, of course, but like I try to get my point across to some of the clients, man. Like I know, like for a long time we're used to like they're only being good to us because they want something. Well, you really ain't got nothing we want, man. You know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
you ain't. We don't want your bad credit, and we don't, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we just want you to get to know Christ. We want to spend time with you, get to know you, let us love you, man, and let the Lord love you, man, and get to know Him in a better way. And that's all we're looking for. That's all we want. And that's the only thing that means anything to us, man, is just allowing Christ to come into your life and change your life, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, it's been great talking to
Yeah,
you
for
here,
sure, man.
guys, and I hope everybody out there has enjoyed this interview with Mr. John Fultz. And remember, if you're an addict or if you know someone in addiction, please reach out to Redemption Road. We normally have beds. If we don't, it'll be just a short wait. We try to help everybody that we can, but all above, we help you to meet Christ. And once you have that, that's it.
That's it.
That's all you need.
That's all you
it's
need.
a signed, sealed deal, man.
Thank you, Mookie.
All right.